Picture this. You're standing in the middle of a street packed with thousands of people, live music pouring out of every single bar, the smell of grilled meat and cold beer everywhere, and it's only Tuesday night. This is Goiânia, the capital of Goiás state, smack in the middle of Brazil's interior, about 125 miles southwest of Brasília. And if you've never heard of it, you're not alone, but you're missing out. While foreign travelers are booking Copacabana hotels and fighting crowds in Pelourinho, Brazilians from São Paulo, Minas, and Brasília are quietly flying to Goiânia for one reason: to party like nowhere else in the country. Goiânia has a population of about 1.5 million people, but on any given weekend night, it feels like half the city is out drinking, dancing, and eating street food until the sun comes up. This isn't occasional, it's culture. So why isn't this city on anyone's Brazil itinerary? Because Goiânia doesn't have beaches, it doesn't have colonial architecture, and it's definitely not trying to look good for Instagram. It's just unapologetically fun. Here's a number that tells you everything you need to know about this city. Goiânia has more than 15,000 bars and restaurants. For context, that's more per capita than Rio de Janeiro. The entire city is built around going out. And we're not talking about quiet wine bars or boutique cafes. We're talking about open-air Boteco-style spots where the music is loud, the beer is ice-cold, and the vibe is social, welcoming, and absolutely electric every single night. But the real heartbeat of Goiânia isn't just the bars. It's the music. And if you don't know what Sertanejo is yet, you're about to understand why this genre absolutely dominates Brazilian culture. Sertanejo is Brazil's version of country music, but with way more romance, way more dancing, and production values that rival anything coming out of Nashville. It's the most streamed genre in Brazil, and Goiás is where it was born. Walk into any bar in Goiânia and you'll hear it. Live bands playing Sertanejo Universitário, couples dancing close, entire crowds singing along to every word. It's not background music here. It's the soundtrack to life. Artists like Jorge E. Matias, Henrique E. Juliano, and Marília Mendonça, who are absolutely massive stars in Brazil, all have deep roots in Goiás. This is where the genre evolved, where the biggest names got their start. If you've been to Brazil and never heard of these artists, that's because you were in the tourist bubble. But ask any Brazilian under 40 who their favorite artist is, and half the time it's someone from the scene. Now let's talk about where the party actually happens. The epicenter of Goiânia nightlife is a neighborhood called Setor Bueno, and trust me, once you go there on a Friday night, you'll understand why locals call it the best bar district in Brazil. Setor Bueno is essentially a grid of streets where almost every building is either a bar, a restaurant, or a live music venue. On weekend nights, the streets themselves become the party. People spilling out onto sidewalks, music competing from every direction. What makes Setor Bueno different from, say, Lapa in Rio, is that it feels genuinely local. You'll see way more Brazilians than tourists here. Families having dinner at 9 p.m., couples bar hopping at midnight, friends ordering another round at 3 a.m. The vibe in Setor Bueno is relaxed but energetic. People dress casually, no one's trying to impress anyone, and the focus is entirely on good company, good drinks, and good music. It's social drinking culture at its absolute best. You'll find spots like Boteco do Cowboy, a legendary bar that's been packed every single weekend for over 2 decades. Or Vila Seu Justino, a massive open-air complex with multiple bars, live stages, and food stalls all in one place. Vila Seu Justino is basically a food and drink theme park for adults. You walk in, and there are dozens of stalls selling everything from grilled meats to acai bowls, craft beers to caipirinhas, all while live bands play Sertanejo on a central stage. And the best part? Vila Seu Justino is open Thursday through Sunday, which means Goiânia's party week starts on Thursday. By the time Saturday rolls around, people have already been out 3 nights in a row. Beyond Setor Bueno, you've got neighborhoods like Setor Marista and Setor East, each with their own bar scenes, local favorites, and distinct vibes. The entire city is wired for nightlife. It's not concentrated in one tourist zone. Now, let's talk about what you're actually going to eat and drink while you're here. Because Goiás has its own culinary identity, and it's way more interesting than most travelers realize. This isn't coastal Brazil. This is the interior, and the food reflects that. Goiás is cattle country, so beef is king here. But we're not talking steakhouse cuts. We're talking about pamonha, a savory corn tamale, empadão goiano, a massive chicken pot pie, and pequi, a bright yellow fruit that shows up in rice, stews, and even cachaça. Fair warning about pequi. It's an acquired taste, and the seed has tiny spines that can stick in your mouth if you bite it wrong. Locals will absolutely laugh if you eat it incorrectly, but they'll also show you the right way with genuine warmth. When you're out drinking in Setor Bueno, the go-to-bar snack is pastel, a deep-fried pastry filled with cheese, meat, or heart of palm. Order a plate of pastéis with a cold Brahma or Skål, and you're officially doing it right. For late-night eats, and I mean late, like 3 or 4 in the morning, head to one of the many churrascarias or lanchonetes that stay open until dawn. You'll find locals ordering beirut sandwiches, grilled meats, and cheese bread at absurd hours. And yes, the classic Brazilian pão de queijo tastes better here than almost anywhere else, because Goiás produces some of the best cheese in the country. You'll find it everywhere, from bakeries to gas stations, and it's always fresh. Now let's talk about something every traveler asks me. Is Goiânia safe? And the honest answer is, yes, way safer than most people expect. This isn't Rio or São Paulo in terms of petty crime. It's a planned, relatively modern city with a calmer vibe. Goiânia was designed in the 1930s as a planned capital, so the streets are wide, well-lit, and logically laid out. You're not navigating dark favela alleys here. The main nightlife zones like Setor Bueno feel safe even late at night. That said, standard Brazil safety rules still apply. Don't flash expensive jewelry, keep your phone in your pocket when you're not using it, use Uber or 99 instead of random street taxis, and avoid walking alone in empty areas after 2 a.m. The biggest difference you'll notice compared to Rio is that people in Goiânia are genuinely friendly and curious. If you're a foreigner, locals will want to talk to you, buy you a beer, practice their English. It's warm, open, and welcoming. Let's talk logistics. Getting to Goiânia is easier than you think. Santa Genoveva Airport has direct flights from São Paulo, Rio, Brasília, and several other Brazilian cities. Most international travelers connect through São Paulo or Rio. Once you're in Goiânia, getting around is straightforward. Uber and 99 work perfectly, rides are cheap, and most neighborhoods you'll want to visit are within a 10-minute drive of each other. You don't need to rent a car unless you're doing day trips. Accommodation-wise, you've got everything from budget hostels to mid-range hotels to upscale Airbnbs. I'd recommend staying in or near Setor Bueno or Setor Marista. You'll be walking distance from nightlife and won't waste time on transportation. The language situation is important to understand. Very few people in Goiânia speak English fluently, and that's okay. Download Google Translate, learn a few Portuguese basics, and you'll be fine. People will meet you halfway with warmth and patience. Honestly, the language barrier works in your favor here, because you're not in a tourist trap where everyone is trying to sell you something in broken English. You're in a real Brazilian city where people live real lives. Now let's talk budget. Goiânia is cheap by international standards. A night out drinking and eating will cost you somewhere between $80 and $150, which is around 15 to 30 US dollars. You can party hard here without breaking the bank. A beer at a Boteco costs around $8 to $12. A full meal at a casual restaurant runs $30 to $50. And even if you go to a fancier spot in Setor Marista, you're still looking at $80 to $120 for dinner with drinks. Compare that to Rio or Sao Paulo, where a similar night out could easily cost twice as much. And you start to see why Goiânia is such a smart choice for travelers who want authentic Brazil without the inflated tourist pricing. When should you visit? Goiânia has a tropical savanna climate. It's warm year-round, but the dry season from May to September is the most comfortable. You'll get sunny days, clear skies, and cooler nights perfect for outdoor drinking. The rainy season from October to April brings afternoon thunderstorms, but honestly, that just means you start drinking a little earlier to beat the rain. Locals don't let weather stop the party, and neither should you. Here's something cool. Goiânia has one of the highest ratios of green space per capita of any city in Brazil. There are dozens of parks scattered throughout the city, and locals actually use them. Running, picnicking, playing sports. The most famous park is Parque Vaca Brava, a massive urban lake surrounded by walking paths, outdoor workout equipment, food kiosks, and weekend markets. On Sunday mornings, half the city seems to be there exercising or having breakfast by the water. If you need a break from the party, and honestly, after 3 straight nights in Setor Bueno, you probably will, spending a Sunday morning at Vaca Brava watching the city wake up is one of the most peaceful experiences you'll have in Brazil. Another side of Goiânia that surprises people: the street art scene. Walk through neighborhoods like Setor East or Centro, and you'll find massive murals, graffiti art, and public installations that rival anything you'd see in Sao Paulo's Vila Madalena. The Centro district, the older, historic part of the city, feels completely different from the modern planned neighborhoods. You've got Art Deco buildings from the 1930s and 40s, vintage cafes, and a slower, more nostalgic rhythm. If you're into coffee culture, Centro has some excellent cafes that roast their own beans and serve proper espresso. It's not as hyped as Sao Paulo's coffee scene, but locals take it seriously, and you'll taste the difference. Now let's address the elephant in the room. Why don't more travelers visit Goiânia? The honest answer is simple. It doesn't fit the postcard image of Brazil. No beaches, no Christ the Redeemer, no Instagram moment that screams I'm in Brazil. But if you're the kind of traveler who cares more about connection than content, who wants to experience how Brazilians actually live instead of performing Brazil for social media, Goiânia is going to blow your mind. You'll have conversations with locals who genuinely want to know your story. You'll end up at a backyard churrasco with people you met 2 hours ago. You'll hear a Sertanejo song at a bar and still be humming it 3 weeks later. Here's something that really surprised me. Goiânia has a thriving university population. There are several major universities here, which means the city stays young, energetic, and culturally active. It's not just about partying, there's real intellectual energy. That student population is one reason the nightlife is so good and so affordable, because it's designed for 20-somethings living on tight budgets, not for tourists with credit cards. The whole city benefits from that unpretentious energy. One more hidden gem before we wrap. If you're into live music beyond Sertanejo, Goiânia has a surprisingly strong indie rock and MPB scene. Check out venues like Payal Music Hall or the smaller bars in Setor East for a completely different vibe. MPB Música Popular Brasileira. is Brazil's classic singer-songwriter tradition. Think bossa nova meets folk meets soul. Hearing it performed live in a tiny Goiânia bar with 30 people feels like discovering a secret the rest of the world missed. So here's my honest take. If you only have 1 week in Brazil and it's your first time, yeah, go to Rio or Salvador. But if this is your second trip, or if you're traveling for 2 weeks or more, carve out 3 or 4 days for Goiânia. You'll come back with stories that no other traveler has. You'll understand Brazilian music in a way you never would from a playlist. And you'll have tasted the Brazil that Brazilians themselves actually love, not the version packaged for export. One last practical tip. If you're flying into Brazil internationally, consider routing through São Paulo instead of Rio. From GRU Airport, Goiânia is an easy 1.5-hour domestic connection, and you'll save yourself the Rio tourist circus entirely. From Goiânia, you're also perfectly positioned to explore the rest of Goiás state. Chapada dos Veadeiros National Park, the historic town of Pirenópolis, hot springs in Caldas Novas. This city makes an excellent base for the entire region. Chapada dos Veadeiros especially, an UNESCO World Heritage Site, some of the most stunning waterfalls and canyons in Brazil, and almost zero international tourists. Combine that with Goiânia's nightlife, and you've got an incredible week-long itinerary. Look, I know this video isn't going to convince everyone. Some people need the beach, they need the iconic landmarks, and that's totally valid. But if you've been feeling like Brazil